it might be afternoon or evening, depending on where you are tuning in from. I am in the very chilly Chicago this morning, finally taking down some of my Christmas decorations. I'm all over the place, but that's okay. As the seasons change, so do decorations, I guess. I don't know if you've heard, but there is this buzz going around with senior level and executive level professionals about this new service. And so did a little bit of research and invited the founder of Career Club to join me today to share with you what exactly it is and how it can benefit you. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring Bob on. As I'm doing that, drop in the comments where you're tuning in from. If you're watching this on replay, go ahead and put in that hashtag replay. And if you have any questions along the way, go ahead and bold question. So that way, as we're scrolling through comments, we can easily see it and come back to you after the fact if it is indeed a replay watch, because we want to make sure we can answer any questions that you have. So Bob Goodwin himself. Good morning, Bob. Let's me switch positions so I can bring you up on the big screen.
Come on. Good morning, Tegan. How are you?
I am good. Thanks, Bob. I'm so excited for you to be joining me today. How before we really dive into these questions, can you just go ahead and give an introduction of yourself? Nobody can speak better about themselves than you can, so take it away.
No, well, first of all, again, thanks so much for having me. Like you, we're taking down Christmas decorations, and I think it's 10 degrees in Cincinnati today. So,
woo!
Yeah, come on. But nothing like a giant cup of coffee won't help. No, so as I said, based in Cincinnati, my career's been in sales and marketing, mostly as a sales leader, as well as an individual contributor. But my clients have been world-class marketers like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Samsung, clients like that. And about 10 years ago, just through networking and wanting to help people, I found myself talking to a lot of folks in job transition. And what I learned was a lot of the challenges that they were going through were really sales and marketing issues. And I know we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go, but essentially, I kind of found my passion point and my skills sort of, intersected. And that was the beginning of Career Club, where I'm helping people use proven sales methods and tools to find a career that matters to them.
I love it. And I am so excited. Here, let me get centered. I'm not used to sitting in this spot on the floor, but like I said, the Christmas tree is down, and so that moves everything again. Okay, so I mean, the concept is fantastic, right? We all know that oftentimes the best person doesn't get the job. It's the person who can sell themselves the best.
Amen.
And so it totally makes sense. But what I'm curious about first is, why did you leave a successful executive career to open this business? Like, what is your why?
No, that's a great question. Is basically when people are in job search. So if I'm in transition, that's a particularly challenging spot to find yourself in, right? I mean, our identity is very tied to our work, for better or for worse, but it's true. Financials, right? My colleagues and the people, my social circle is a lot of the people that I work with. And when all that is kind of been stripped away from you, it's a very challenging emotional spot to be in. And I'm just very empathetic to that. I've been in that position myself before. And so when, thankfully I've had a good career and things were just sort of happening at work. It's like, you know what, as one door closes, maybe another door is opening. And I've been thinking about this for, probably 3 years. And just honestly, a friend of mine kind of kicked me in the butt too. We were, this say like April, May of 2020, 30 million, 40 million people have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, you know how to help these people. Why don't you go make that your full-time gig? And I'm like, yeah, why don't I? And so I feel really fortunate that, again, the same advice that I would give somebody else, I'm taking, which is, what are you good at? What do you care about? And how can you support yourself? And that Venn diagram, the intersection of those three circles, that's my why.
Awesome. I mean, anybody that I've ever spoke to who personally knows you just says that you've always been doing this. You've always been a connector. You've always been a giver. Even when you were in corporate America, that's just been a trend throughout your career. So it makes sense. You've touched on a couple aspects of, the themes that are going on right now. Somebody who has lost their job, the emotions that we go through, how difficult it is. And it's difficult at every level. But something that's interesting is at the senior and especially the executive level, there's less and less jobs. And so it adds a different level of complexity to your options. And it's something that, so like some of the things that I hear executives or even senior leaders, especially at the, the Fortune 500 level, who would potentially be an executive level candidate at a smaller to mid-sized company, they say when they're employed, I'm just too busy to start my job search. I'm not fulfilled here. I'm no longer challenged. I'm just, going through these same motions, but I don't have that fire anymore. But I'm too busy to even start. And another thing I hear a lot of people say is, I used to be in people's pipelines. I used to be able to call so-and-so at this executive search firm. I used to be able to call so-and-so who is a headhunter, an executive headhunter, who I would say, this is what type of company I'm looking for. This is, what I need salary-wise. This is where I want to be location-wise. These are all of, this is my list of, if you can get me everything on this list, I will take a move. And they're saying, I just don't have those relationships anymore. Either firms closed down, or they can't get in touch with the same people as they used to. And they're finding themselves for the first time ever not being in someone's pipeline. And that hurts. Nobody wants me. And that's not the case. You just need to
That's not the case. I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes our emotions aren't rational. And so what other themes are you seeing for an executive job search that really we need to dive deeper into to make sure we can get these people hired?
Yeah, so a few things to unpack here. One is, there's people who are literally in job transition right now. They're not employed somewhere right now, not doing their own thing. That's what's unemployment right now, 4%.
I haven't looked it up recently, but sure.
Well, it's somewhere in that neighborhood, and I think actually for college graduates it's a little bit lower. So then the other piece, and you and I do polls on LinkedIn and stuff like that. I did one a few weeks ago, and had like 200 responses to it. But it was basically like, what's holding you back? If you are currently working, what's holding you back from pursuing something else? Well, the good news is about 2/3 of people said, well, I actually like my job. I'm not unhappy, but that means fully a third, it's actually about 37% of people weren't loving what they were doing.
Okay.
And the reasons were, I'm just freaking too tired. Like I don't have the time and I don't have the energy to go do this. I have good intentions, but hey, at 8:00, I'm going to start devoting some time in the evening. And when 8:00 rolls around, after putting kids to bed and eating and whatever, it's just like, dude, I just want to relax. I just need just a little downtime. And then the other big chunk of it is I don't even really know how to start. Yeah. So I haven't looked for a job in 10 years. To your point about executive search, which is pretty passive. I'm waiting for somebody to call me. Mm-hmm. But I think the broader issue in that particular piece of it is really kind of nurturing and maintaining our networks.
Yep.
So when we view our networks transactionally, it's like going to the ATM. I need to make a withdrawal right now. But if you haven't been making deposits, there's nothing to withdraw.
I like that.
And those are like bankrupt relationships. That doesn't work. And
Right.
so, one of the things that you said that I was a connector, a network or whatever, that's like breathe in, breathe out for me, because that's just my nature. And I like being with people. I like connecting people to each other. That's a very fulfilling behavior for me. My wife sometimes gets on me for like, are you doing another meet and greet? I'm like, yeah. And she doesn't always understand that, who's it? Amy Volas talks a lot about playing the long game.
Yep.
It's just a long game. But it's not a game in the sense of like, I'm trying to be manipulative or win the game, but it's sowing and reaping. That is just flat out a principle. And when we sow, invariably we will reap. But when we don't sow into these relationships and nurture them, and I mean, it is, hey, Tegan, was just thinking about you. Hope you're having a great day. If I can do anything to help, let me know. Talk
Yep.
soon, Bob. Like, how long did that take? Not even 10 seconds. And all of a sudden, Tegan's like, that was so sweet. Thank you, Bob. No, I'm good for right now, but thank you. It's easy, right? But it's also, you have to be intentional.
Yes. And we happen to have a couple of lovely ladies in the audience who are amazing at this. So Lauren, founder of Portfolio Rocket, I
Yeah.
mean, phew, I around the holidays, you had so many people saying like, look at my socks, look at my luggage tag, look at this, look at that. And she sent, really thoughtful, personalized, handwritten notes with different gifts to different people who have touched her over the year. I mean, that takes a little bit more effort than, that quick text you were talking about, but what an impact, that's the type of touch that can really set you apart. And
Amen.
then there's Shelly, and Shelly sent, the most thoughtful LinkedIn message, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who got it, but it was just so sweet to hear her touch on, different things that resonated over this past year, or just something really personal that just, thanks, Shelly, it just made my day. And even if it's more generic than that, it still makes people excited to think, wow, that was so kind.
Yes.
And so I love that you say you have to put in the deposits if you eventually want to go ahead and take something out. So fantastic point there.
Yeah. The other just super quick thing I'll say on networking, this was the very first thing I ever posted on LinkedIn a few years ago. And I called it the most powerful question you can ask. And it came out of meeting with a job seeker, met at a Starbucks, and this poor man's body language was like, oh, like, I'm so sorry I'm wasting your time. And was like backing away, like, hey, I'm really sorry. Like, I know you're really busy. Like, so like, I'll see you later. I'm like, whoa, stop. I want to be here. Like, I want to get to know you and see if I can be of some kind of help to you. And so, kind of got him relaxed. But my takeaway from all of that was that person felt like on different plane, and that there was different, I don't want to overstate this, but sort of like, adult child kind of a relationship. And I'm like, no. Like, you've got a whole personal experience, you've got passions, you've got things that you're good at, you've got relationships, so you have something to offer, was sort of the headline. The most powerful question you can ask is, how can I be of help to you personally or professionally? How can I help you? A job seeker thinks the most powerful question sometimes is, do you know of a job, right, that I can go apply for right now? Can you go connect me to a hiring manager right now? And it's not the best question. When we show people that we are genuinely interested in helping them, and I say personally or professionally, right? So I might learn that, somebody's child, has dyslexia, or that they're really into, some kind of a cancer walkathon because their wife is a survivor of some kind of cancer, whatever. Like, when you actually take the time to get to know somebody as a human, it's like, oh, didn't know that, I can connect you with somebody. Would that be helpful to you? Like, even if the person says, well, honestly, not right now, but thank you so much. That is such a differentiated behavior.
Yep.
People remember that.
Absolutely. And when you are on the job search, you have to be prepared to know how to answer that. And oftentimes, one of the things that people need you to think about is what company do you want to work at? Because our networks are so vast. And so if we go into it with, I know what I'm good at doing, I know what titles I want, that's easy, that we know that. But where do we want to go next is so much harder to figure out. And that's one of the things that really piqued my interest when I started hearing the buzz about what you've got going on, because I'm a big believer in making target company lists and doing the research and, figuring out, deep information about the company so you can really stand out while you're on the job search. Yep. So how does that work in your career club?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you teeing that up, because that was one of the big outages that I identified after literally thousands of hours of meeting with people in job search and presenting to groups and stuff like that. Well, Tegan, like, what kind of companies are you interested in? Who are you targeting? That's really a good question. Like, well, that is not a great answer, right?
Exactly.
I can't help you if I don't know how to help you, right? Yep. And so what people tend to default to is the book of lists for fill in my hometown, right? So the Cranes list in Chicago for fastest growing companies, public companies, biggest private companies, whatever. But people are going to a book of lists. And guess what? Everybody else is going to that same book of lists. Or they're thinking of their biggest competitors in their last, wherever their career's been. And so the point being, people have very limited, narrow universes to the extent they've even identified companies. And so having worked in, finance with private equity and venture capital the past couple of years, there's some databases out there. One of them is Crunchbase, and Crunchbase basically has got, public companies, private companies, 1.5 million companies in it. But its secret sauce is companies are getting funding.
Yes.
And so the thesis is, by definition, if you just got $30 million, you're scaling out. You need more HR, finance, marketing, sales. It's not just, Java programmers, but you also, in a lot of cases, and I think for our, middle stage to late stage career listeners, they're also scaling up. Yes. So like the guy that got them from 0 to 10 million in revenue may not look like the lady that's going to get them to 200 million. Different skill set, right? And so
I see that every day with these startups that I work with, that I collaborate with, and they want to bring someone in, oftentimes from these big companies, but how do they attract them? Because they can't compete on the job boards, because a company like Amazon, who posts 1 million job postings a year, isn't going to be the same as this up and coming company who maybe posts 100 or 300. It's just those algorithms and how much that they can pay to be on these job boards. You can't do it. So how do you find these companies?
Yep. So what we're doing is basically using that database to say, okay, let's identify companies that we do know, and what are their attributes, and like, how are they described, to go find the ones that we don't know, and then mine the database. And then, the bullseye is companies that have received at least X millions dollars of funding in the past, say, like 6 months or a year. Mm-hmm. They still have the money. They haven't made all the decisions. They have all the needs. So timing becomes a key element to this, but they're almost invariably companies that you haven't heard of, with funny names. They've got money, they got momentum, and they're hiring, right? So basically we start to curate bespoke lists of companies. The other thing that's just, such a tailwind, I think, for job seekers right now is the move to remote/hybrid work. So like, you just opened up, all of the United States is available to you, not just, my hometown. Yeah. And so what we're finding is, like, people are spoiled for choice, and that, we have to like work on culling down from 150 companies to, let's get down to a more manageable list. And so now they're really cherry picking the best companies that are of most interest to them.
Yeah, it's a fantastic. I'm really excited about, that approach. And so okay, so it makes sense. You're doing this research on what companies are getting funded. You're compiling a list. So essentially you've created like a sales CRM, but for a job seeker. Okay. And so what else? How does exactly Career Club work? I know
Yeah.
there's been a lot of buzz about it, and I know that there's different options to it. And
Yeah.
I've never met anybody who has said anything less than great things about you, and you live within integrity. But some people have said, well, is there integrity in this? Is there integrity in, somebody else helping you with your job search and doing some outreach, because it's not technically a recruitment firm or not technically a headhunter? And so what would you say to that? Put people's concerns at ease. I mean, I don't have any, but
No.
what potentially for someone who's thinking like, are you sure? Are you sure this is okay? How does it work? What do you say to that?
Yeah, no. So I mean, I love it. Like I would not want to do this if it wasn't with 100% integrity. So like in software sales, if we were at a SaaS company, guaranteed they're going to have business development or sales development reps, BDRs or SDRs, right? Who are doing the initial prospecting for their enterprise salespeople.
Yes.
So their salespeople are busy working on the next big deal with Walmart or whoever, right? And that's where that person's time is best spent. So they've got somebody else, a different function at the company that is doing some of that initial spade work. And, they've got an identified territory, on behalf of that enterprise salesperson. And they're doing what salespeople do all day, every day, is they're initiating the contact. A job posting to me is basically like a request for proposal. It's an RFP. And so here it is, and they put it out to the world and everybody comes to it. There's not a salesperson in the world who's building their pipeline just waiting for RFPs to come through. They're proactively calling on the companies. They're identifying the decision maker, the budget holder for that role, and they're doing the proactive outreach. What I love so much about how the dynamic has changed in the current labor market is that it is shifting to labor and away from management. I don't mean that like in a unions or not unions kind of a way, but just that the candidate just has a lot more control in this equation than they used to previously. So what we're doing is saying, hey, here's a really talented person. Let's go to the individual at these cool companies who would most be in need of their services, and let's make them aware that this candidate is available. I think that we're doing everybody a huge favor in that. The company is probably not going to find this candidate on their own. For sure, our client is going to find this company on their own. They don't have the time or the know-how to do it. And so what we're doing is just sort of bringing the talent to the need and seeing if there's a fit, comma, or not. And if there's not, that's cool. That means it wasn't a fit.
Awesome. So this truly is a sales approach to the job search, which is something that the average job seeker does not think like. However, career coaches do. We're advocating for this type of deep research, for these types of outreach. Like Lauren, she's known for accessing the hidden job market, and that's one of the things. Those posting those jobs that aren't necessarily posted or aren't necessarily created yet. And this is exactly what she's talking about. So I love this approach.
Can I be transparent for a second, Tegan, on that?
Yeah.
So when we launched Career Club a year ago, in a pilot, kind of in a little bit of a stealth phase, we did 90 days. And we had 50 people all paying. But what I felt like, and I'm empathizing with the career coach thing that you were just saying a minute ago, is I felt like I was selling gym memberships. So really, like people look at my gym and they're like, oh, wow, what a cool tool. The CRM, wow, get me organized. This is cool. Oh my gosh, all these companies that I've never heard of. That's amazing. They give me their money. But if you don't go to the gym, it doesn't matter. And so what I learned was, unless you're a salesperson or have a strong inclination and understanding of sales principles and practices, it kind of gets in the head. I'm being told what I should do. It doesn't find its way to my fingers and actually like doing the work for whatever reason. And so, you know, that's where the idea of the concierge bit was born. So we still have what we call President's Club, which is more of a do-it-yourself version of this. So I'm like, God bless you. Like if you're working with a career coach and you're getting that support and you've got the time and the inclination, cool. Just subscribe to the tool. That's awesome. But for everybody else who doesn't have the time, the energy, or the know-how, then the other bit might be, you know, more to their liking. So
yeah, and I can see even somebody who is working with a career coach like the idea of somebody doing that initial outreach. Hey, whatever company I'm working with, a fantastic client who may be a great fit for your organization. Here's a little bit about Tegan, blah, 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 blah. Would you like me to set up an introduction? And then boom, you play matchmaker and there you have it. So I love that. So, all right, we're getting close to time and I want to be respectful of yours. And so Bob, if you can do me the honor of closing out today's LinkedIn Live, what words of advice would you give a senior executive level professional in today's job market?
Yeah, well, the world is your oyster. Steve Cadigan is the first CHRO of LinkedIn, and he wrote a book called Workquake, which I would highly, highly recommend to people. And what I love about it, he had a post yesterday and basically said the job market is your candy store right now. And I really believe that's true. So I want people where if Sunday night sucks for whatever reason, for people, it doesn't have to be that way. You asked me earlier about, my why and my purpose and things like that. It's like when you don't love what you're doing, like I think passion might be a little overused word, but if it's a net negative drain for you with your work, it's just too important. And I would just really encourage people, you have a lot of choice. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and working with career coaches. I love working with you, Tegan, because we're helping people get their story straight, right? And so that, they're more confident in what their abilities are and how to go articulate their abilities and tell me about yourself, or as it's represented on their LinkedIn profile, resume, cover letter, whatever. And I think all those things are huge net positives. And so I would just really encourage anybody who's on with us now or watching this on replay, if you're not loving what you're doing and it's chronic, okay, we all have good weeks and bad weeks, but if it's kind of generally speaking, I'm not loving what I'm doing, you have so many choices. Don't stay stuck. There are ways that you can go find a fulfilling career. And there's a ton of help. I'm just blown away by the community that I've discovered, like with you and the people who are on the call today. There's so much help available to people. You just need to tap into it.
All right. So you heard it from Bob. If you want to be professionally fulfilled, if you want to be personally fulfilled, professionally successful, and financially rewarded for your skill set,
Amen.
If you are stuck, then there is support for you in a variety of ways.
Yes.
So reach out, DM either of us if you want continued support. And Bob, how can someone reach you if they're like, okay, I want to learn a little bit more? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, well, love for you to either message me on LinkedIn would be great, or my email is bob@career.club, which is, I was surprised .club was an extension, so I was pleased with that. So you can either DM me on LinkedIn or bob@career.club.
Awesome. And for Lauren, Shelly, Paul, Phil, and everybody else that has tuned in today, thank you so much. I just answered all of your questions about Career Club. If not, definitely set up one of those calls with Bob. He's happy to share how he has reinvented the job search to make it so much easier for job seekers to reach their goals. For everybody else, I will see you next week, Tuesday at 8 a.m. Central Time. Have a wonderful day.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.